everyone, and welcome to the SSPI podcast by Space and Satellite Professionals International. I'm Tamara Bond Williams, Executive Director of SSPI. Today, we launch a new series, From Classroom to Community, as part of the Signal to Soar Connected Schools campaign. Signal to Soar Connected Schools shines a spotlight on the tremendous difference connectivity can make for schools, especially those isolated by terrain and other factors, as well as how connectivity via satellite transforms the communities that surround those schools. The campaign is produced with the support of Hughes and Echostar Company. As part of the campaign, we're pleased to launch From Classroom to Community, Episode 1, The First Signal. When a remote school connects for the first time, everything changes. Students gain access to global knowledge. Teachers tap into new tools. Families and communities begin to share in the benefits. Our guest today is Germán Otálora, Director of Microsoft Airband Program for Latin America. Germán Otálora leads Microsoft's Airband program, building partnerships with governments, NGOs, academia, and industry to bring purposeful connectivity to underserved communities. He joined Microsoft in 2015 after a career in consulting, including leading a team of over 30 at PricewaterhouseCoopers. He holds a degree in industry design and an MBA from Universidad de los Andes. He lives in Bogota, Colombia, with his wife, 2 children, and their Boston Terrier, Lupita. Germán, welcome.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really
very happy you're here.
For being here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I had some questions to start with, but I actually need to ask about Lupita. That is an awesome name for a dog. What made you name the dog Lupita?
Well, Lupita is the love of our lives and actually is like a nice companion for our kids. She's a Boston Terrier. She's 5 years old, and she's a great company for us here in Bogota.
Okay. Well, I hope one day I get to meet Lupita. Okay, well, let's jump right into. Thank you. Let's jump into the conversation. Can you paint a picture for us about the lay of the land in Latin America? How big is the rural connectivity gap, and what specifically does that mean for schools?
Well, the connectivity gap in rural areas is considerable here in Latin America. We are looking at probably, 60 or 7% of people unconnected or underserved, of the people that live actually in rural areas. But it's interesting because Latin America is not so, I would say, so scattered as Africa. You can find here in Colombia or probably in Chile or Argentina that there are a few cities that kind of account for probably 75 or 80% of the population of each of the countries. So we would be looking at probably 20% of the Colombian population is in which we consider a rural location or a rural kind of condition. So from that 20%, I would say that 70 or 60, between 60 and 70% of the people are in an underserved or an unserved situation with regards to connectivity. And that obviously kind of replicates in all of the countries of Latin America.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Okay, so with that as a background, Airband works with a range of partners to reach these rural communities. So let me first take a step back and ask you about Airband. What is it? And how do you come to be working there? Let me just cover that ground first.
Absolutely, and thanks for asking. And actually, we are now no longer called urban.
Uh-huh.
Now we are called sustainable and connected communities. That is kind of our new name in this kind of a new AI era, in which we not only connect rural communities and remote communities, but we also bring access to energy and bring access to water. So we really consider a community sort of a sustainable entity in which connectivity, energy, and water are indispensable.
Hmm.
So that's the first thing. We are now working in many aspects of what we consider essential services to the communities. And how I came to work for Microsoft. I've always loved and liked technology, like instinctively. I worked at PwC on information security and risk and all that, but I think that technology is nowadays the most important vector, if I can say, or the most important driver of transformation in our society. So that's what basically moves me. That's what's always been on my mind, and that's what I'm really grateful to be applying on my day to day and my job and my role. So that's how I came into Microsoft. That's what I do in Microsoft, and that's actually what sustainable and connected communities is now what's doing.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It's a nice thing when what you're passionate about and concerned about in the world also aligns with the work that you do to make a living. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So sustainable and connected communities, formerly Airband. Through that effort, you've collaborated with Hughes to strengthen digital inclusion through satellite connectivity and skills development programs. Why is satellite such a critical part of the mix for remote schools, especially in regions where laying fiber might not be as easy or realistic?
Well, this is kind of needless to say. Satellite is a technology that can bring connectivity to any part of the world, and that's something that is amazing. You can have connectivity on a boat in the middle of the ocean. You can have connectivity on the uh, tallest and highest mountains. You can have connectivity in the middle of the jungle. So that's the beauty of satellite connectivity, and that's something that we had in mind when we approached Hughes with the idea of becoming partners and kind of closing a partnership with them. So that's number one, the idea that we had in mind, and that absolutely Hughes is in a pretty good position to deliver great quality connectivity, but also anywhere in the world. So that's number one. Number two is that we not only see connectivity, we don't see connectivity as the end, we see connectivity as a mean to an end. And that mean is how we, through connectivity, propose or contribute to change people's lives through
Mhm.
technology. That's kind of our mantra. That's kind of our objective in sustainable and connected communities. And we found that Hughes not only is safety, but also is the right partner to deploy all the training and all the programs around skilling that we have. So that's been amazing, and that if I mean, there is no one day that passes by that I don't get amazed by how they do stuff and how they reach out to people and reach out to communities and deploy like really unthinkable networks in really rural places.
Yeah, yeah. I I heard you say that. I heard you say skills. Is that the kind of education that's happening? Is it the normal K through 12? Is it specifically skills based? Is it a mix? What kind of educational efforts are happening at the schools?
Well, it's a bit of a K to 12 sort of education, but
Mm-hmm.
also is the basic skills, the basic digital skills. We reckon that people and anyone, probably students from school students,
Mm-hmm.
but also entrepreneurs and also usage of technology needs to have like really basic skills. And when I
Yeah.
mean basic skills are not the ones that probably you and I are accustomed to. Basic skills are the ones that people in rural areas they consider their basic skills. So turning on a computer, having an email, surfing the web, um, writing a letter on Word, or making a presentation on PowerPoint, or just making like a really basic calculations in Excel. So those are the basic skills that really transform the life of people in rural areas. So uh, once again, those are the basic skills. But if we want to take it a little bit further, AI is something that we are also very uh, happy that is here, but we're also very concerned that probably people in rural areas they don't have access to or yeah they don't have access to AI tools.
Mm-hmm.
So we really want to, once we develop and once we help with those basic digital skills, we also bring people like kind of a taste or a touch of what's AI and what AI can bring to them. Because out of any kind of technology and out of anything that we can bring to them, AI is going to be really transformative.
Yeah. Yeah. I really love that. And I'm like, that wasn't in my list of questions to ask, but I heard you mention it and it caught my attention because, we think about a lot of times when we think about connected schools and we're thinking about young people being able to participate in the world that's before them, but we forget that those young people there are older people in their lives and there are people who want to be engaged with the world as it exists today, and are kind of cut off, and so we can create opportunities like you say through just having basic connectivity that allows participation in the modern digital era. So that is really incredible that you're doing both, and creating that educational opportunity for the whole community.
Sure, and that's what it's all about. I mean, we always say bringing connectivity is not what we are after. We're after transforming lives of real people, and that's where technology brings like the whole transformative power and the whole impact that we're pursuing. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Microsoft has emphasized that schools can become connectivity hubs, and I think we're kind of touching on it a little bit now. But what have you been seeing in terms of what that actually looks like on the ground when you have a school that starts enabling connectivity for an entire community?
Yes, and that is a great question, Tamara, because a school per se, it's a hub and spoke location. I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a connectivity per se, or is a location or an entity, I would say, that brings together the community. So the school normally in rural areas is kind of, I'm going to say a word, but probably this is something I'm making up, equidistant. Would that be a word?
I think it
Um,
is. Yeah.
so it has the same distance between most of the people. They have the same distance between their home and school. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of becomes the natural and the organic get together place for all the community. So that's
Yeah.
number one. Number two is that you see a school like a place where you go to learn, to discover the world, to become like a different person, and that's why a school is so I would say, so magical, and it has like this power, that really, when it brings together the community knows that they go to a school to become a different person. So that's why we figured that bringing connectivity to a school is going to be transformative, not only for the students and the teachers, but the community as a whole. And we have seen it all over Latin America. We saw it in Colombia where we started, but we're seeing this in Chile, we're seeing this in Argentina, we're seeing this in Mexico, and that's why we consider school like a very special place and a magical place.
You are listening to The Better Satellite World, the longest-running continuous podcast in the commercial space and satellite industry. The Better Satellite World podcast is funded by the corporate partners of SSPI, Hughes, Access Intelligence, the American Space Exploration Fund, and Qvia. Have you heard about SBQ? Space Business Qualified is a popular online learning program for industry professionals designed by JSOA, SSPI, and SatProf. To learn more, visit spacebq.org. In September and November, join SSPI and the New York Space Alliance for the next New York Space Business Roundtable. If you want to get inside the industry's biggest issues and investments, meet startups and high-profile industry leaders from around the world, the Roundtable is a real New York event you cannot miss. You can now register for our next New York Space Business Roundtable, which will be on September 30th. Call or raise Europe Bets on Sovereign Space. To register for this upcoming roundtable, visit sspi.org/events. And now back to the Better Satellite World.
I had a question here. I wrote here, what do teachers and students notice in the first 90 days? Access to content, live lessons, assessment, new pedagogies. So that was the question that I wrote, and I sent that to you. But I want to ask that question, but I also want to ask it in the reverse, right? Like, do we in the more connected world get to learn from the teachers who have been teaching all along? They just haven't been digital all along, right? Do we get some of those lessons back from them as to how they navigate?
I guess we do, and I guess we can get a lot of value and a lot of feedback from the teachers that they didn't have access in the past to internet and to tools and to content and so on, and now they do. And actually what they tell us is that having access to internet is not just filling up the digital gap, but filling up the equity gap, and and also dignifying their status as a citizen. I mean, they, as a Colombian, they wish to have the same essential services that anyone has in Colombia, and they don't have it because they are really far away, and it's very difficult for the state and for the government to reach out to them and to and kind of fulfill those needs of bringing essential services. So what they say is that more than having the opportunity to surf the web, bringing internet to their classes and to their locations and homes and schools is filling up the dignity gap that they don't have at this moment.
Wow. I really appreciate that language, the dignity gap. It's a thing that we don't always take stock of. Because, certainly where I live, it's very privileged to just have access to things, and take that access and the familiarity of it for granted. But obviously, it's not easily accessible everywhere. And so I'm really grateful for the work that you and Hughes are doing in making sure that dignity gap is closed so that people have the ability to engage the world on equal terms. So thank you for that.
No, it's been amazing. And I know that for Hughes and for the rest of our partners has been an amazing journey. And we hope we can keep doing this for many, many years to come.
So, for the sake of our viewers, just to kind of humanize this a little bit, could you share a story from one of the specific schools or communities that really captures kind of a before and after story that benefited the community?
Yeah, there was one school that comes to mind, and it was kind of in the early beginnings of Airband, now known as Sustainable and Connected Communities. And this was and probably you know a little bit of history of Colombia. This was a location or a municipality that was heavy hit by violence and by drug trafficking and all that. And and one of the kids said to us, look, having internet and having access to this kind of information is amazing because we have answers to questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mainly what kids have when they are like on their early ages. They have a lot of questions, and probably they don't have a way of solving those questions and answering those questions. And actually this is pretty, I mean, it was an amazing story, and actually we have it on video. But the kids, and that one in particular, I can't remember his name. He always was very amazed that through internet and through access to content and through access to platforms and having their computer connected to the internet was really amazing because it became a tool that answered so many questions that they had at that point.
Wow. Yeah, wow. It really reminds me just how much that experience for teachers is so common, right? Teachers are always looking for ways to broaden the horizons of their students, even in where I grew up. I grew up in Brooklyn, and one of the goals of the teachers was to get kids out of Brooklyn, like, see more than just where you live, just see the world bigger than you imagine it right now, so that you have a bigger perspective and know how you want to move in the world, maybe a little bit more than just the limited view that you have because you grew up in a place. And I think it's really important to remember that experience and the ability to broaden our horizons is also part of that dignity gap that you were talking about.
Absolutely. And having, I mean, being internet the convener of all those wishes and all those questions and wishing to get to know the world and trying to get to know people and trying to get to know cultures around the world and all that, and not having, I mean, at the beginning, not having the need to travel to get to know them, but just being aware that there is a world outside. That is so amazing, and that is kind of the initial power of the internet and of technology, kind of being that spark that lights up the curiosity and that lights up the need to know more, and that's great, and that's a great story about that teacher that you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to find those ways. I think it's a trap that we can fall into when you come from a nation that's considered a developed nation, and you're talking about nations that don't have the kind of connectivity that we take for granted. It's a trap to imagine that our experiences are so different. They're circumstantially different, but the underlying philosophy of what we want in life is often the same. And so I try to look for that because I'm sure it exists, right? And that's an example of it. I know lots of people who never leave Brooklyn and who never step foot out of the neighborhood where they grew up.
I was going to say, Tamara, that actually, in the most basic sense and in the most simple sense, it's it's kind of dreaming. And actually, I and this pretty shocked me. This struck me like pretty much when I was visiting rural areas, especially the ones in Colombia where violence is kind of a situation that you need to be kind of aware of, and not just family violence, but actually violence that comes from guerrilla and drug trafficking and all that.
Yeah.
And people used to say to me that that young that children at the age of, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years old, in those kind of situations they stopped dreaming. They didn't have any dreams because they didn't have the means, but they also were seeing and in a contact, sorry, in a constant situation in which it wasn't kind of something. I mean, it wasn't able for them. They weren't able to dream.
Yeah.
And that's really, it's really. I mean, it shocked me, and it's really difficult to see and to be in contact with and to understand. And actually, this speaks to what you were saying. The situation probably in rural areas, especially in undeveloped countries, is really, really harsh, and it's really different from what the one that we are normally accustomed to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so again, it's really amazing work that you're doing, and I'm really grateful that you're here to help us really grasp the importance of what's happening and with this work. Um, well, let me ask a more concrete question, right? So, as you're doing this work, how do you measure success? What are the metrics that you look at to say, okay, we're making the impact that we hope to make?
Well, basically, our how we measure success and basically what we do is kind of materialize the vision that we have as a company. Microsoft has this pretty unique, and I love this vision in which we say we empower every person and every organization in the planet to achieve more. And actually, what we do is kind of a materialization of that vision. And whenever we see that people really can transform their lives, and that people can say, "Look, now I can do this," or "Now I can dream about this," and "Now I can dream about becoming a I don't know, an engineer or a songwriter or a musician or whatever," that's when we realize that we are being successful. And
Mm-hmm.
probably, and normally Microsoft as a company, we always have been driven by numbers and by quantitative outcomes. But whenever we see that transformation in one person, we know that we are being successful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you arrive at this place where you see that the impact is happening, that the expected and the hoped for goals are being achieved, and you want to scale it up. Um, how do you do it? And what are some of the risks that you face as you're trying to expand the program?
Well, actually, the way to expand this, and this is the only way to do it, is through partnerships. And
Mm-hmm.
we always have been working towards, and we are pretty much aware of the 17th objective of sustainable goals.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, did I say it right? I think I did. But the 17th objective is making partnerships to transform basically. So we know that the way to do this and to scale it and to move it like to the next phase is through the partnerships that we can make with governments, with
Mm-hmm.
multilateral organizations, with private sector, with academia, with foundations. So that's the way to do it, and it's kind of the only way to scale it. Um, about risks that we probably have, we probably, and this is something that I always remind myself. we see that we are changing the world for one person. And we normally, when we do this kind of interventions, we go to the field and we speak to people and we see how this is transformative to them. But we cannot limit ourselves to changing the world to one person. We need to keep changing the world to all of the persons. So that's something that we need to keep doing, and that probably we can achieve it through partnerships.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate the vision, and I appreciate that that the proof of concept is a single person, but that you want it to expand beyond that one person. So, as you look into the future, what do the next 12 to 24 months look like for the work of sustainable and connected communities? How do you expect to grow in the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, we need to keep doing our work in the regions that we are in Latin America, in Asia, in Africa, especially. We are kind of in this new endeavor in which we want to make like a pretty intensive AI diffusion. And when I say this is how we are able to, and probably I didn't talk about this before, but one of our goals that we are about to achieve is helping connect 250 million people around the world, and especially 100 million people in Africa. So with those communities that we have already connected, we want to make like a proper and a really steady AI diffusion. That's kind of our goal within the 12 to 24 months coming up.
Okay. Well, I hope that maybe in 12 to 24 months, we get to have you back and see how it's gone. So
that's great, Tamara.
Yeah, I hope we get to do that. Germán, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you sharing this story with us and helping us to kind of grasp the scope and the ambition of what you're working to do. And so thank you again.
No, thank you, Tamara, so much for having me here, and thank you for the really nice conversation.
Absolutely. That concludes today's episode, The First Signal, part of our series From Classroom to Community in SSPI's Signal to Soar campaign, made possible by Hughes, our lead campaign partner. We thank our guest, Germán Otálora of Microsoft Sustainable and Connected Communities, for sharing his insights with us. This podcast is made possible by the support of SSPI's professional, student, and corporate members. We are especially grateful for our corporate partners, Access Intelligence, producers of Via Satellite Magazine, the American Space Exploration Fund, formerly known as the Space Shuttle Children's Trust Fund, the law firm of Clyde and Company, Qvia, and today's sponsor, Hughes, an Echostar company. To learn more about SSPI, visit sspi.org and follow us on X at SSPI, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. New episodes of the SSPI podcast, including the Better Satellite World podcast, the Satellite Futures podcast, and She Reaches Women in Space, are released every Monday. You can find today's and other episodes on sspi.org/SSPI-podcast. And you can subscribe at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcasts. And new this year, you can also subscribe to our podcast on YouTube at SSPI Video, all one word. For SSPI and our producer, Ari Yates, I am Tamara Bond-Williams. And for the people and companies building a space and satellite future worthy of our highest aspirations, thank you for all you do.